Elena Vaughn prided herself on being predictable. In a world where people crumbled under pressure, she thrived in routine, discipline, and control. She woke every morning at 5:30, no alarm needed, her mind already sorting through her schedule before her feet hit the cold marble floor. She trained for exactly 40 minutes, showered for 8, dressed in tailored black and navy tones, then headed down the elevator of her penthouse, as if rehearsing for the millionth time. The city bowed to her rhythm. She never deviated. Not for anyone. Not for anything. And certainly not for strangers in the rain. Her driver pulled up to the Kulfi at precisely 7:14 a.m., giving her 1 full minute to walk inside, order her cappuccino, and sit at her usual corner table with the same precise view of Fifth Avenue, cars weaving, umbrellas bobbing, life happening at a pace she could manipulate if she wanted. Elena liked that feeling. The universe obeyed when she moved. Except for that Tuesday. The rain was violent, relentless curtains soaking the city in cold, heavy droplets, drumming against the canopy of the cafe as if impatient with anyone who dared step outside. Elena didn't flinch. Weather was merely an inconvenience for those without preparation. Her assistant had already sent an updated version of her schedule, meeting with the board, lunch with partners, financial projections review. Nothing unusual. Nothing she couldn't dominate with the same surgical precision she applied to everything she built. Cappuccino in hand, she stepped out into the storm, her umbrella snapping open with a clean metallic click. She kept her pace brisk, heels silent against the wet pavement. Her meeting was in 45 minutes. Enough time to arrive, skim the agenda again, and make sure no one forgot that she was, unquestionably, the sharpest mind in the room. And then, without warning, she halted mid-step. She didn't trip. Elena Vaughn didn't trip. But someone, was blocking her path near the alley beside the cafe. At first, she thought it was discarded trash, an abandoned pile of blankets someone had left behind. But then the bundle moved. A soft, trembling sound rose beneath the roar of the rain. Elena narrowed her eyes. There, pressed against the brick wall, was a young woman curled around a tiny baby, her own coat spread out uselessly as the rain soaked through every layer. Her hair was plastered to her face in dark, wet strands, her cheeks ghost pale, her eyes filled with something feral. Fear, exhaustion, pride, when they flicked up to meet Elena's for a sliver of a moment before darting away. Elena's breath caught, not dramatically, but enough that she noticed it. Enough that it irritated her. She didn't break routine. She didn't get involved in street tragedies. She had an entire philanthropic division designed to handle this exact category of human suffering. She funded shelters, medical aid, transition programs. She did not personally stop in alleys to help strangers. She especially didn't stop for women whose entire posture screamed, "Don't look at me." Yet she remained frozen in place, the rain soaking her trousers, her cappuccino cooling in her hand as the woman struggled to adjust the drenched blanket around the baby. The infant let out a sound, not quite a cry, more a weak whimper, and something in Elena's chest shifted, unfamiliar and unwelcome. She should walk away. She had a meeting. Her assistant would panic if she wasn't on time. She didn't know these people. She didn't want to, but her feet moved anyway. She stepped into the narrow space, the storm fading into muted noise as she crouched slightly. "You're going to freeze out here," she said, tone clipped, controlled, because she didn't know how to speak any other way. The woman flinched as if struck. "I'm fine," she rasped, voice shaking. "We're fine. We'll move soon." It was a lie. Elena recognized lies the way predators recognized heartbeats. "What's your name?" "Doesn't matter." "It does to me." The woman hesitated, tightening her hold around the small bundle. The baby squirmed weakly, a tiny fist peeking from the soaked blanket. "Natalie," she whispered. "And this is Lily." The name hit harder than expected, soft, delicate, warm in a way Elena wasn't prepared for. She exhaled, slow and measured, a decision forming before she consciously acknowledged it. "Come with me." Natalie stiffened. "I don't want charity." "I don't offer charity," Elena corrected coolly. "I offer efficiency." Natalie blinked, unsure whether the statement was a threat or an insult. But Elena was already pulling out her phone, firing off commands to her assistant, her driver, her building concierge. She operated with the precision of a general preparing for battle. One call to have her spare apartment unlocked and heated, another to request emergency supplies. She didn't ask if Natalie agreed. She didn't need to. The way the woman clutched the baby told Elena everything. Minutes later, Natalie was in the back of Elena's car, water dripping onto the leather seats as she held Lily tight against her chest. The baby's cheeks were flushed with cold, tiny breaths fogging against Natalie's damp collarbone. Elena sat beside them, uncharacteristically silent as she watched the rise and fall of that fragile chest. She didn't like how her pulse changed every time the baby made a sound. She didn't like the sharp protectiveness curling inside her. She especially didn't like the way Natalie glared at her, suspicious, confused, wary, strong despite everything, like someone who had learned the world only offered help with strings attached. When they reached the apartment, Elena ushered them inside. The living room lights brightened automatically. Heat hummed through the vents. The couch, the sleek kitchen, the floor-to-ceiling windows, all pristine, elegant, untouched. "This is temporary," Elena said, hands clasped behind her back to keep from fidgeting, a habit she'd eradicated years ago but felt threatening to return. "A few weeks. Until you get back on your feet." Natalie looked around as if expecting the walls to crumble. "Why?" Her voice was small, tired, fragile, but her stare was sharp, demanding an answer Elena wasn't sure she had. So she told the only truth she could articulate. "Because your daughter shouldn't be freezing in an alley." Something flickered across Natalie's expression. Pain, gratitude, she didn't want to feel, the instinct to protect herself from hope. "I'll pay you back," she muttered. "I don't need repayment." "I still will," Natalie insisted. Elena didn't argue. She simply nodded, stepping back as Natalie carried Lily toward the bedroom. The door shut softly. Elena exhaled. She should leave. She had a meeting. She had a company to run. But she stood there instead, staring at the door, listening to the faint sounds of a mother murmuring to her baby and wondering why her chest felt tight. That night, she returned with groceries. She claimed they were extras from her kitchen. The next night, she returned with formula, insisting she had overbought. The night after that, she returned with a baby carrier she swore she had lying around, though the price tag was still attached. And every time she saw Lily with her round pink cheeks, her faint cooing noises, her impossibly tiny fingers curling around her mother's shirt, Elena felt the strange, persistent warmth grow. She didn't notice the moment she became someone who stayed for dinner, or someone who held the baby so Natalie could shower, or someone who listened, really listened, as Natalie slowly, cautiously revealed pieces of her past like shards of glass she'd been carrying too long. Elena Vaughn, who never deviated from routine, now found herself rerouting her entire evenings around two people she barely knew. She told herself it was temporary, practical, efficient. But when Lily fell asleep against her chest for the first time, soft breath warming her collarbone, Elena knew, deep, dangerous, undeniable, that her life had already changed. And she had no idea how to go back anymore. Elena didn't intend to stop by the apartment the next morning. She told herself she wouldn't. She even repeated it aloud while tying the cufflinks on her tailored white shirt. She would not reroute her morning routine again. She had already done enough. More than enough. Too much, even. Her generosity had limits. Her involvement had limits. Her life worked because it stayed within those limits. Helping one homeless mother for a few weeks was already a disruption she shouldn't be indulging. But as she stepped out of her penthouse, descended the elevator, and sat stiffly in the back seat of her car, something inside her twisted, an itch she couldn't scratch, a worry she didn't want to name. By the time the driver pulled away from her building, Elena's eyes were on her phone, fingers tapping a message to her assistant before she could stop herself. "Reschedule my 8:15 meeting to remote. I'll call in." She stared at the message, jaw clenching, irritated that she had sent it, irritated that she cared, irritated that the sensation in her chest felt suspiciously like anxiety. When the car rolled to a stop in front of the apartment building where she had left Natalie and Lily, Elena gave herself one more moment to reconsider. She could tell the driver to keep going. She could pretend the whole thing never happened. Natalie was an adult. She would figure things out. But then she thought of the way Lily had curled her tiny fingers around Natalie's shirt the night before, how the infant's breaths had been too shallow, how Natalie hadn't stopped shaking until well after the hot shower, how exhaustion had clung to her like a second skin. Elena exhaled sharply and got out of the car. The elevator hummed softly as she ascended. She didn't knock. She wasn't sure why she didn't knock. Maybe because she had left them here. Maybe because she had paid the rent on this place for the last 6 years. Maybe because her name was on every inch of this building. Or maybe, dangerously, because a part of her already felt responsible for what she had taken in out of the rain. When the door opened, she was met with chaos. Not the messy kind, the human kind. Natalie was pacing the living room with Lily in her arms, bouncing her lightly with one hand while the other rubbed her temple. The baby was crying, a high, distressed wail that filled the space with urgency. The moment Elena stepped inside, Natalie whirled toward her, eyes wide and frustrated and tired, her voice sharp with defeat. "I can't get her to calm down. She's been crying for an hour. I don't know what else to do." For a brief second, Elena forgot how to breathe. The sight was disarming. Natalie, defensive, guarded Natalie, was unraveling, not from weakness, but from the weight of motherhood, from fear, from trying so desperately to be enough for her child with so little to give. And Lily, red-faced, tiny fists clenched, let out another cry that pierced straight through Elena's ribs in a way she didn't want to admit. "Give her to me," Elena said softly. Natalie blinked. "What?" "Let me try." "Elena, she's upset, not broken." "You don't have to. I know," Elena interrupted gently. "Just let me try." Natalie hesitated. She looked at Lily, then at Elena, then back at Lily. Reluctance tugged at her features, but also desperation. Slowly, carefully, she transferred the crying infant into Elena's arms. Lily was warm and trembling, her little body jerking with each sob. Elena held her awkwardly at first. She wasn't used to babies, wasn't used to anything she couldn't control, but then something clicked. She adjusted her hold the way Natalie had done the night before, one hand supporting the baby's head, the other stroking her back in slow, steady movements. "Hey," she murmured, her voice softer than she'd intended. "You're all right. You're okay. I promise." Lily's cries didn't stop immediately, but they changed, softened, hesitated. Natalie stared, stunned, as Elena continued rocking gently, whispering meaningless, careful words into Lily's tiny ear. After 2 minutes, the crying became hiccups. After 5, soft whimpers. After 7, silence. Lily fell asleep against her chest. Natalie's mouth parted slightly, disbelief written in every line of her face. "How did you?" "She never calms down that fast." Elena didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Her throat felt tight, her chest full in a way she didn't recognize, as if the small sleeping weight in her arms was unlocking emotions she'd buried so deeply she'd forgotten they existed. When she finally met Natalie's eyes, something unspoken passed between them, something fragile and terrifying and new. Natalie looked away first. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice cracking. I didn't sleep. I was afraid she'd get sick from the rain yesterday. I didn't want to bother you." "You wouldn't have bothered me," Elena said without thinking. Natalie let out a humorless laugh. "You're a CEO. I doubt you want to deal with a crying baby first thing in the morning. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories." Elena lowered her gaze to Lily, her breathing slow and even, her tiny hand curled trustingly against Elena's collar. "You'd be surprised what I'm willing to deal with," she said quietly. Natalie froze, not from fear, but from something else, something that made her shoulders tense and her breath hitch. Elena didn't elaborate. She didn't understand the words herself. She only knew they were true. For the next hour, she stayed.
She didn't sit.
She didn't rush. She simply held Lily while Natalie showered, changed clothes, and reheated leftover oatmeal. When Natalie emerged, hair damp, wearing clean jeans and a worn sweater, she looked almost like another person, still tired, but more grounded. More herself. I made tea, she said awkwardly. Do you want some? Elena should have said no. She should have left. She had a company to run, investors to manage, meetings to dominate. But she followed Natalie into the kitchen anyway. The apartment wasn't large, but it felt warmer today, gentler. The overhead lights reflected off the soft steam rising from the mugs on the counter. Natalie moved with practiced familiarity around the space, even though she'd been here less than 24 hours. Lily slept in her arms, curled against her like she belonged there. Elena didn't know what to do with that feeling. They sat at the small dining table. Lily remained asleep, small breaths puffing against Elena's shirt. Natalie's eyes drifted to the side again and again, each time with a different emotion: surprise, gratitude, fear, longing, something Elena couldn't decode. She likes you, Natalie said finally, voice quiet. Elena let out a dry huff. She screamed for an hour. Not at you, Natalie countered. At the world. She hesitated, fingers tightening around her mug. You make her feel safe. The words struck deeper than they should have. Elena didn't respond. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know how. Instead, she asked, Did you eat? Natalie blinked, thrown off. Not yet. Eat, Elena said softly. I'll hold her. Natalie swallowed hard, then obeyed. For the first time since Elena had met her, she ate without rushing, without panic. And for the first time, Elena realized just how starved the woman must have been, not only for food, but for security, for rest, for someone to carry even a fraction of the weight she'd been holding alone. When the meal was done, and Lily still slept peacefully, Natalie leaned back in her chair, exhaustion pulling at her features. I should start looking for a job, she said. I won't stay here for free. You're not, Elena replied. You're staying here, so your daughter stays alive. Natalie flinched at the blunt honesty, but didn't argue. I don't want to rely on you. You're not relying on me. Elena, you're getting back on your feet, Elena said more firmly. There's a difference. Their eyes locked again, and something shifted, trust, fragile and new, beginning to take shape like a small flame in the dark. Elena stood before she could say anything else revealing. She handed Lily back to Natalie, careful not to wake her. I have to go, she said, but I'll check in later. Natalie's expression twisted. You don't have to. I know. Elena hesitated at the door, then added, softly, I want to. She left before she could witness Natalie's reaction. But if she had stayed just a moment longer, she would have seen it. How Natalie's breath caught, how her grip on Lily tightened protectively, how her eyes softened with something she wasn't ready to name. Elena didn't know it yet, but she was no longer just a stranger who pulled them out of the rain. She was becoming something else entirely. Something dangerous. Something precious. Something Natalie had never been allowed to believe she could have. And as Elena stepped into the elevator, she pressed a hand over her chest, feeling that same impossible warmth spreading again, unwelcome yet unstoppable. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself she could walk away at any time. But a soft, sleeping baby and a broken, brave woman had already altered the orbit of her life. And Elena Vaughn had no idea how much further she would fall. Elena told herself she wouldn't go back the same evening. She had already spent too much time there that morning, already crossed more lines than she usually allowed in an entire year, already let a stranger and her baby rearrange the gravitational pull of her day. But the hours after she left the apartment were strange, off balance in a way she couldn't name. Her office felt colder. Her meetings felt flatter. Her assistant noticed the shift and tried twice to ask if she was all right before the warning look in Elena's eyes shut her down. Elena went through her agenda with mechanical precision, Yet her mind kept drifting back to the faint weight of Lily's tiny body against her chest, the soft warmth of her breath, the way her small fingers had curled around Elena's shirt as if trusting her without question. And then there was Natalie, exhausted but proud, guarded yet gentle, a woman trying to survive a life that had thrown her into fire after fire without mercy. Every time Elena blinked, she saw the moment Natalie's eyes softened when she'd said, "I want to." It was maddening. It was distracting. It was irreversible. By 7 p.m., Elena had lost the battle with herself. She stopped pretending she wasn't going back. She arrived at the apartment with a bag she refused to acknowledge she had deliberately packed. Diapers, wipes, oatmeal, a pack of swaddle blankets that she'd told the cashier were for a friend's baby shower, even though the cashier clearly hadn't believed her. When she opened the door, Natalie was sitting on the couch with Lily asleep on her chest, her hair loosely tied back, her face illuminated only by the small lamp beside her. She looked peaceful in a way Elena hadn't seen before, like the storm inside her had quieted just a little. The moment Natalie noticed Elena, she stiffened slightly, as though unsure what version of her to present: gratitude, suspicion, politeness, fear. "You came back," she said, not accusingly but not confidently either. "I said I would." Elena set the bag on the counter. Natalie eyed it immediately. "What's that?" Elena crossed her arms, voice steady. "Essentials." "Elena," Natalie sighed, shifting Lily carefully. "You can't keep buying things for us." "Why not?" The question slipped out sharper than intended. Natalie hesitated, searching for the right words. Because I don't want this to feel like I owe you. I don't want Lily growing up thinking she's a burden." Elena's eyes softened, though her posture didn't. "You don't owe me anything. And Lily is not a burden." Something cracked in Natalie's expression, small, fragile, but real. She looked down at her daughter, brushing a finger gently across her cheek. "She likes sleeping on people," Natalie murmured. "She never sleeps this peacefully alone." Elena exhaled, something tender and dangerous unraveling inside her. "May I?" Natalie blinked in confusion until Elena gestured toward the baby. Slowly, cautiously, Natalie stood and transferred Lily into Elena's arms. The baby stirred at the movement but didn't wake, her head nestling instinctively into the hollow of Elena's collarbone. Elena felt the breath leave her chest, slow and deep. She held the infant like she was holding something rare, something she wasn't meant to touch but couldn't stay away from. Natalie watched, wide-eyed, every muscle in her body softening as she saw her daughter relax effortlessly against the woman who had walked into their lives like a storm disguised as salvation. "You're good with her," Natalie whispered. "I'm not sure I am," Elena admitted quietly. "But she seems to think so." A small laugh escaped Natalie, surprised, gentle, almost shy. It shifted the air between them, made it warmer, softer. Elena sat carefully on the couch, keeping Lily close, her movements instinctively protective in a way that scared her more than she would ever admit. "You should rest," Elena said without looking at her. "You're exhausted. I'll rest later." "Now," Elena insisted. "I'll stay with her." Natalie hesitated but eventually sank back into the opposite side of the couch, drawing her knees up. She looked at Elena for a long time. Too long, and Elena felt it, the weight of that gaze, the gratitude and uncertainty wrapped tightly together. "I don't understand you," Natalie murmured. Elena turned her head slightly. "Most people don't. You're powerful.
Rich. You could be anywhere right now.
Why are you here?" Elena's throat tightened. She didn't want to answer. She didn't know how to answer. But Natalie deserved the truth, even the partial ones. "Because you needed help," Elena said softly. "Because Lily needed warmth. Because you looked like you were carrying too much alone. Because," she swallowed, "because no one should be left out in the cold." Natalie looked down, blinking rapidly as if fighting something, emotion or disbelief or the instinct to trust. "I'm not used to people caring," she said quietly. "Not without wanting something back." Elena felt anger spark, not at Natalie, but at the world that had taught her that truth. Then they were the wrong people. Silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but fragile, like a bridge being built plank by plank. Lily sighed in her sleep. Natalie exhaled shakily. Elena forced herself to remain still, even though every part of her wanted to reach across the space between them. "I'll make us dinner," Natalie said suddenly, standing too quickly, as if escaping the weight of the moment. "You don't have to," Elena replied. "I know, but I want to." While Natalie moved quietly around the kitchen, Elena watched her, graceful despite exhaustion, protective even from a distance, someone who had been hardened by life, but not destroyed by it. Someone Elena found herself drawn to in ways she couldn't explain. Natalie served simple pasta with vegetables. They ate together on the couch, Lily asleep between them, her tiny breaths the soft background to something new unfolding. At one point, Natalie's fingers brushed Elena's when passing the fork. The touch was brief, accidental, but it sent a sharp, electric drop through Elena's spine. Natalie froze. Elena did too, but neither pulled away immediately. They just stared, wide eyes, startled breaths, something unspoken stretching between them in the quiet glow of the lamp. Natalie was the one to look away first, cheeks flushing. "Sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," Elena murmured before she could stop herself. When dinner ended, when Lily shifted and whimpered softly, Elena's heart cracked at the idea of leaving.
She stood anyway.
She forced herself to. "I'll come by tomorrow," she said. Natalie swallowed hard. "Okay. If you need anything, I'll call," Natalie finished. Their eyes held for one long, fragile moment. Then Elena left. The image of Natalie cradling Lily burned into her mind with painful clarity. As she walked to the elevator, she pressed her palm briefly against her chest again. The warmth was stronger tonight, more dangerous. And for the first time, Elena stopped trying to pretend she didn't know what it meant. Elena had no intention of spending the entire weekend with Natalie and Lily. She truly didn't. She had a list of tasks for Saturday, back-to-back calls, contract revisions, strategy briefs. But the moment she woke up, the first thought in her mind wasn't her empire. It was a 3-month-old baby with soft breaths and a woman with tired eyes who looked at her like she didn't understand why Elena kept coming back. Elena tried to distract herself with work, but her concentration fractured every few minutes. By 9 a.m., she was pacing her penthouse like a caged animal. By 9:30, she was in the elevator. By 9:37, she was knocking on Natalie's door, even though she told herself she wouldn't. When the door opened, she wasn't prepared for what she saw. Natalie stood barefoot, hair messy, wearing Elena's oversized t-shirt from one of the dresser drawers. She must have grabbed it out of desperation after Lily spit up on her clothes. The shirt hung off one shoulder, revealing soft skin and a hint of collarbone, and for the first time in a long time, Elena's heartbeat stumbled. Lily was in her arms, awake and alert, tiny hands grabbing at Natalie's hair. Natalie froze when she saw Elena, as if she had been caught doing something wrong. I didn't have anything clean," she said, tugging the shirt down awkwardly. "I can change." "Don't," Elena said too quickly, too softly, her voice dipping into a tone she didn't recognize in herself. "It looks comfortable." Natalie blinked, cheeks warming, but didn't argue. The moment felt charged, not sexual, but intimate, raw, like something fragile was unfolding between them without permission. "We were about to have breakfast," Natalie said. "Do you want to?" "Yes." She answered too fast again. Natalie looked at her for a long second, as if trying to figure out what Elena wanted. The truth was that Elena didn't know herself. She only knew that being here felt strangely right in a way that terrified her. Breakfast was simple: eggs, toast, a small bowl of cut fruit. Elena wasn't used to simple meals. She wasn't used to someone cooking for her. Every movement Natalie made felt domestic in a way that burned under her skin, awakening something she had locked away for years. Lily was fussy, and without hesitation, Elena lifted her from the bassinet. The baby relaxed instantly against her shoulder, and Natalie exhaled a breath of disbelief mixed with something warmer. "She really likes you," Natalie said softly. Elena swallowed. I like her too. Natalie's expression softened further, but she didn't respond. The morning blended into early afternoon, and Elena didn't leave. She helped Natalie clean while Lily napped, holding the baby monitor like it was a sacred object. At one point, Natalie was on the small balcony shaking out blankets, and Elena stood beside her, watching the sun hit her hair. It was the first time she'd seen Natalie in daylight, really seen her, and the realization landed heavy and warm. Natalie was beautiful. Not polished, not put together, not perfect. Beautiful in a way that felt real. Human. Unavoidable. Natalie caught her looking. Elena didn't look away. Natalie's breath hitched almost imperceptibly before she broke the moment with a soft laugh. You're staring. Am I? Elena asked, too calm, too honest. A little. Then maybe you should get used to it. Natalie went still. The air between them sparked, the kind of tension that didn't need touch to be felt. Lily's cry from inside broke whatever fragile thread was pulling them together. The afternoon passed in a rhythm that neither of them questioned, feeding Lily, changing her, folding tiny clothes. Elena had never imagined spending her Saturday this way, yet she found herself memorizing the sound of Lily's giggles, the softness of Natalie's voice whenever she soothed her, the way the apartment felt warmer simply because the two were in it. When evening came, Natalie cooked again. Pasta, nothing fancy, but Elena swore it tasted better than half the meals prepared by private chefs. They ate side by side, the lamp casting a golden glow over the room. Elena didn't want to leave. She stayed until Lily's bedtime, watching Natalie rock her gently as the baby drifted into sleep. Something inside Elena twisted painfully, longing, fear, something like belonging she didn't dare name. When Natalie laid Lily down and turned around, she found Elena still standing there, hands in her pockets, like she wasn't sure what to do with them. You can stay, Natalie said quietly. If you want. Elena's chest tightened. I shouldn't. I didn't ask what you should do. Natalie stepped closer without realizing it. Or maybe she did. Maybe both of them did. Do you want to? Elena shouldn't have felt the way she did in that moment. Unsteady, breathless, undone. The truth formed before she could stop it. Yes. Natalie nodded, looking almost relieved. They didn't touch. They didn't cross any line. They just existed together in the quiet, like the universe was holding its breath around them. Elena stayed on the couch that night. Natalie brought her a blanket she didn't need, and a pillow she pretended not to want. When the lights dimmed and the apartment fell into silence, Elena lay awake long after Natalie had retreated to the bedroom. She stared at the ceiling, listening to the faint sound of Natalie humming to Lily through the cracked door, a soft melody meant to protect, to comfort, to love. Elena felt something in her chest shift again, something she couldn't suppress, something that scared her and anchored her at the same time. She didn't sleep until she heard Natalie's voice fade into quiet breathing. Sunday morning arrived with the smell of pancakes. Elena blinked awake, momentarily disoriented. This wasn't her penthouse, her spotless minimalist kitchen, her carefully curated world. This was warm, human,
Alive.
Natalie was at the stove with Lily strapped to her chest in a sling, humming lightly as she poured batter onto a pan. Her hair was brushed, but still messy. She still wore Elena's t-shirt. And Elena had never seen anything more devastatingly soft in her life. You're awake, Natalie said, smiling shyly. I wasn't sure if you'd stay the whole night. I wasn't sure either, Elena admitted. But I'm glad I did. Natalie looked down, cheeks flushing as Lily babbled softly against her chest. They spent the day together, not because of obligation, not because of circumstance, but because neither of them seemed to know how to pull away anymore. Elena held Lily through her midday nap. Natalie told her stories about her childhood, each one revealing pieces of pain she disguised beneath humor. Elena listened, really listened, more deeply than she ever had to anyone. Late afternoon brought rain, soft this time, tapping against the windows like the universe reminding them where everything started. Natalie leaned her head against the window frame, watching the droplets slide down the glass. When you found us,
I thought it was the end.
I thought there was no one left who would care. Elena stepped behind her, not touching, not yet, but close enough for Natalie to feel her presence, like warmth on her skin. I care, Elena said softly. Natalie closed her eyes, breathing in slowly, trembling just a little. She didn't say anything in response. She didn't need to. The silence said everything. Neither of them acknowledged it, but the truth settled quietly between them. This wasn't temporary anymore. It hadn't been for a long time, and both of them knew it. Elena hadn't meant to return on Monday night. She had spent the whole day trying and failing to focus on work, her mind drifting constantly to the memory of Natalie leaning against the window, rain behind her, eyes closed as Elena stood impossibly close. Her board noticed she was distracted. Her assistant noticed she was distracted. Her CFO actually asked if she was feeling unwell, which was the most outrageous sign of all. Elena Vaughn did not get unwell. She got results. She got control. She got whatever she wanted. Except now, what she wanted was a woman and a baby in a warm apartment, and she hated how easy it was to admit that to herself only when she was alone. By the time the city lights began glowing orange against the dusk, she gave up pretending she wasn't going back. When she opened the apartment door, the first thing she heard was Lily crying, not distressed, just fussy, and the sound made something in Elena's chest tighten with instinct she didn't understand. Natalie was pacing the living room, rocking Lily gently. "She's just fighting sleep," she murmured, though her voice was heavy with exhaustion. "Long day?" Elena asked softly. Natalie didn't turn around. "Just overwhelming. Sometimes it hits all at once." Elena stepped closer, her heartbeat kicking up the way it always did around them. "Do you want me to hold her?" Natalie hesitated for a moment too long, as if the question itself carried weight, then slowly turned. "Yes," she whispered. Elena reached out, and the moment their hands brushed during the transfer, something shifted. Something warm. Something electric. Natalie didn't let go immediately. Neither did Elena. Their fingers lingered, intertwined briefly around the baby's small body, a point of contact that shouldn't have meant anything but somehow felt like everything. When Natalie finally withdrew, her breath hitched. Elena pretended not to notice, even though every nerve in her body was suddenly aware of her. Lily calmed instantly in Elena's arms, nestling her face into Elena's collarbone like she belonged there. Natalie watched, silent, the softest ache in her expression. They talked quietly about Lily's day, about the freelance project Natalie was trying to finish on her old laptop, about Elena's chaotic schedule, until finally Lily drifted to sleep. Elena carried her to the bedroom and laid her gently in the crib. When she stepped back into the hallway, the lights were dim, warm, soft. Natalie stood there waiting, arms crossed, not defensive, just holding herself together. "Can we?" she began, then paused, biting her lip. "Sit for a moment?" Elena nodded, following her to the couch. They sat close. Too close. Close enough for Elena to feel the heat radiating from Natalie's skin. Silence stretched between them, thick and trembling. Natalie turned slightly toward her, and Elena mirrored the movement without even thinking. "You stayed the whole weekend," Natalie said quietly. "For months ago, no one even remembered my birthday. And now you just keep showing up. Is that a problem?" Elena asked, her voice low. Natalie let out a shaky breath. "I don't know. It scares me." Elena's throat tightened. "Why?" Natalie's expression twisted. Fear, longing, confusion tangled together. "Because people don't stay, Elena. They don't choose me. They don't choose Lily. Not for long." "I'm not people," Elena said, the words leaving her before she could stop them. Natalie looked up sharply, her eyes catching the faint light. They were so close now. Inches. Less. Elena could see the tiny flecks of gold in Natalie's irises. She could feel her breath. She could feel her heartbeat. "Elena," Natalie whispered, something breaking in her voice. Elena didn't move away. She didn't blink. She didn't breathe. Their faces were so close that Elena could feel the warmth of Natalie's cheek against hers, a whisper of contact, fleeting but devastating. And then Natalie's hand lifted, slowly, hesitantly, until her fingers hovered near Elena's jaw. She didn't touch her. Not yet. But the intention alone made Elena's pulse crash into her ribs. "Why do you keep coming back?" Natalie asked, barely audible. "Because I want to," Elena answered, her voice rough, unsteady. "Because being near you, both of you, feels—" She shook her head slightly, unable to finish, unable to find a word that didn't expose her completely. Natalie's fingertips brushed Elena's cheek.
Just barely.
Just enough to steal her breath. The world narrowed to that single point of contact. Elena didn't pull away. She couldn't. Natalie's touch was soft, trembling. "Elena," she whispered again, this time with something dangerously close to longing. Elena leaned in, instinctively, helplessly, closing the remaining space between them until their foreheads grazed. Their noses brushed. Their lips hovered a breath apart. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't. But it was everything leading to it. Everything begging for it. Everything holding them in place like gravity had chosen them specifically. Natalie's hand slid to the side of Elena's neck, her thumb trembling against her skin. Elena inhaled sharply. Natalie exhaled shakily. And then Lily cried from the bedroom. The sound shattered the moment like a stone through glass. They froze. Reality snapped back too violently. Natalie withdrew her hand instantly, stepping back as if burned. Elena forced herself to breathe, to regain control, to pull the armor back around her body. I need to check on her," Natalie muttered, unable to look at her. "Of course," Elena whispered. But neither moved. For 3 agonizing seconds, they just stared at each other, breaths uneven, hearts pounding, the almost kiss trembling in the air between them like something alive. Then Natalie turned and hurried to the bedroom, clutching her chest like she needed to hold herself together. Elena remained frozen on the couch, her hand rising unconsciously to the place where Natalie had touched her. Her skin still burned.
Her pulse still raced.
Every cell in her body still leaned toward the woman who had walked away. When Natalie returned, Lily calm again in her arms, she avoided Elena's gaze, but her cheeks were flushed, her lips parted, her breathing still uneven. Elena stood. "I should go," she said softly. "Okay," Natalie whispered. But when Elena reached the door, she paused. She turned back. "Natalie." Natalie lifted her eyes. Vulnerable. Beautiful. Shaken. "Yes." Elena swallowed. "You're not alone." Something inside Natalie broke open at the words. She didn't hide it.
She didn't pretend.
She let Elena see it, even if just for a second. And Elena walked away knowing one thing with terrifying clarity. The next time they got that close, there would be no interruption. And no turning back. Elena didn't sleep that night. She lay awake in her penthouse, staring at the ceiling as the city hummed below her. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt Natalie's breath against her lips again, soft and warm, the kind of closeness that rearranged the inside of a person. Her body still remembered the ghost of Natalie's fingertips against her jaw, the trembling touch that said everything neither dared to voice. It had been nothing. It had been everything. Elena had never been undone by something as small as a near kiss. She had faced mergers, hostile takeovers, public scandals with more calm than she felt now. But that moment, Natalie's whisper, their foreheads pressed together, the fragile vulnerability between them, had cracked something she had spent years building. So she did the only thing she knew. She pulled back. She forced distance into a space that no longer belonged to her alone. She didn't visit the next day. Or the next. She kept her schedule brutally full, extra meetings, additional briefings, tasks she usually delegated. Her assistant eyed her suspiciously but said nothing, too afraid to question the CEO when she slipped into that ice-cold mode. Yet, even while Elena tried to drown herself in work, she checked her phone constantly, waiting for something. A message from Natalie, maybe. A call. A question. A sign. Nothing came. Not even a single text. And for some reason, that hollowed her out more than she expected. By the 3rd day, she was pacing her office at 9 p.m., unable to focus, unable to think, unable to stop replaying the way Natalie had looked at her, like she mattered, like the moment mattered, like Elena wasn't just some unreachable woman but someone she wanted. Elena slammed her laptop shut. She lasted 4 more hours before she broke. At nearly midnight, unable to swallow the ache in her chest any longer, she found herself outside Natalie's door, hand trembling in a way she despised as she lifted it to knock. The door opened before she touched it. Natalie stood there, barefoot, hair messy, wearing a loose sweater that hung off her shoulder. Her eyes were tired, surprised, and something else Elena couldn't name, but felt like a punch to the gut. Elena? Her voice was soft, unsure, but it still wrapped around Elena like warmth she wasn't prepared for. I shouldn't be here, Elena said. So why are you? Elena swallowed hard. Because I couldn't stay away. Natalie blinked, slowly, softly, as if the words hit a place she'd been trying to protect. She stepped back to let Elena inside. The apartment was dim except for a small lamp near the couch. Lily was asleep in the bassinet. Everything felt quiet, intimate, fragile. Are you okay? Natalie asked, crossing her arms, not defensive, just holding herself, the same way she always did when she didn't know what to feel. No, Elena said honestly. Natalie's breath caught. Because of what happened? Elena didn't answer immediately. She walked farther into the room, jaw tight, pulse unsteady. I've never, she broke off, frustrated with herself. I'm not good at this. Natalie stepped closer. I know. I haven't been avoiding you because I regret anything, Elena said, her voice low, rough. I just needed to think.
About what?
About what it means that I wanted to kiss you. There it was.
Bare. Raw.
Irreversible. Natalie's lips parted, a quiet inhale betraying her surprise, and something that looked painfully like relief. Elena, the way Natalie said her name always did something to her. Something dangerous. Something irresistible. Elena turned to face her fully. Did you think I didn't feel it? That moment. Natalie's cheeks flushed, and she shook her head slightly. I didn't know what you felt. I still don't. Elena took one step closer. Then another. Natalie didn't move away. I felt everything, Elena whispered. Natalie's eyes fluttered closed for a heartbeat, as if steadying herself. Then why did you disappear? Because I was scared, Elena said, the words cracking out of her, quiet but devastating in their honesty. Scared of wanting something I don't know how to handle. Scared of hurting you. Scared of what this is turning into. Natalie looked at her. Really looked, and Elena felt seen in a way she hadn't in years. I thought you regretted it, Natalie whispered. I don't. I thought maybe I messed up. You didn't. I thought maybe I imagined the whole thing. Elena closed the final distance between them. You didn't imagine anything. Silence thickened. Their breaths tangled. They stood so close they could feel the warmth of each other's bodies. And then, slowly, cautiously, Natalie reached up. Her fingers brushed Elena's wrist. A gentle touch. A question. Elena didn't pull away this time. Natalie's hand slid down until her fingers laced through Elena's, hesitant, trembling, but certain in their intention. Elena felt her heart stumble. I didn't call because I didn't want to bother you, Natalie confessed, voice small. I thought you needed space. Elena shook her head slightly. I needed you. The admission broke something open in them both. They stood there, fingers intertwined, the air thick with the weight of everything they weren't saying. Elena lifted her free hand, slow as breath, and brushed Natalie's cheek with the back of her fingers. Natalie leaned into the touch like she'd been craving it. And suddenly, it wasn't just tension. It was gravity, pulling them together without permission. Natalie reached up, her hand sliding behind Elena's neck, fingertips tracing her skin in a way that made Elena exhale shakily. Their noses brushed. Foreheads touched. The same position as before, but deeper this time, heavier, filled with the echo of everything they had held back. Elena, Natalie whispered. Tell me I'm not reading this wrong. You're not, Elena breathed. Their lips hovered a breath apart, so close Elena could taste the warmth of her. But this time, the universe didn't interrupt. Natalie closed her eyes. Elena closed hers. And then Lily whimpered. Not a cry, not a scream, just a soft, tiny sound. But it was enough. Enough to remind them of the boundaries they needed. Enough to break the spell, but not destroy it. Elena stepped back first, breath unsteady, chest rising too fast. Natalie stood frozen, hand still hovering where it had touched Elena's neck. Neither spoke for several seconds. Until finally, Natalie whispered, "We were really going to—" "Yes," Elena said, voice barely steady. "We were." Natalie's eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with something fragile and hopeful. "And you're not running again?" "No," Elena said. "Not anymore." For the first time, Elena reached out first, taking Natalie's hand gently, purposefully. "We'll figure this out," she whispered.
Slowly. Carefully.
Together. Natalie squeezed her hand back, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "Okay." Elena looked toward the bedroom where Lily slept. "Do you want help putting her back down?" Natalie nodded. They walked toward the bassinet side by side, hands still intertwined, steps in sync, like something had clicked into place without needing words. And they both knew, this time, they hadn't stepped away from the moment. They had stepped into it. Elena didn't expect the shift between them to happen so quickly or so quietly, but from the moment they stood hand in hand beside Lily's bassinet, something in the air changed. Not dramatically, not loudly, just enough for both of them to feel it in the way they breathed, the way they looked at each other, the way the room itself felt warmer, fuller, more alive. The next morning, Elena returned before sunrise, pretending she was simply passing by before work, even though she'd gone to sleep hours later than usual because she had spent half the night replaying the second almost kiss in her mind. Natalie opened the door with Lily in her arms, hair messy, sweater falling off her shoulder, as if she had barely slept either. The moment their eyes met, a softness bloomed between them, unspoken but impossibly clear. "You're early," Natalie said, voice low, warm, still waking. "I wanted to see how you were," Elena answered without hesitation. Natalie swallowed, her cheeks flushing faintly. "We're okay." Lily woke up a few times. She usually does on nights when she feels everything. Elena nodded, stepping inside. "May I hold her?" Natalie hesitated. Not because she didn't want to hand Lily over, but because of the way Elena asked, so careful, so tender, so unlike the ice-coated CEO reputation she carried like armor. "Of course," Natalie said, her voice softer now. Elena took Lily gently, automatically adjusting her arms the way she had learned over the past days. Lily settled instantly, laying her small head against Elena's chest with a tiny sigh. And there it was again, that electric warmth, that sense of inevitability, as if the baby knew exactly who she trusted. Natalie watched, her expression fragile and tender all at once. "She loves you," Natalie murmured. Elena glanced at her. "I love her too." The words slipped out unintentionally, quiet, honest, unshielded. Natalie's breath caught, her eyes widening slightly as she absorbed the confession. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. It simmered in the silence between them. They spent the next hours together in the easy rhythm of something new, something that didn't need definition to feel real. Elena helped with breakfast. Natalie teased her about her terrible way of stirring pancake batter. Elena pretended she wasn't charmed when Natalie laughed, but the truth was she felt it echo through her chest long after the sound disappeared. Mid-morning sunlight filtered through the apartment, warm against the wooden floor. Elena sat on the couch with Lily asleep in her arms, while Natalie worked on a freelance project from her laptop. Every now and then, Natalie would look up, quietly, subtly, just to watch the way Elena held her daughter, like she was holding something precious. And every time she looked up, Elena was already looking back. "What?" Natalie asked once, eyes narrowing playfully. "Nothing," Elena said, though her lips hinted at a smile she couldn't fully suppress. "You're staring," Natalie accused gently. "Am I?" "Yes." "Then you should be used to it," Elena said, echoing her own words from the weekend. Natalie's face went warm instantly, a flush blooming over her cheeks. She looked away with a breathy laugh that hit Elena far harder than it should have. Hours passed like this, soft, domestic, wrapped in a comfort neither of them had expected to find. Elena left only briefly for a mid-afternoon meeting, though the entire time her thoughts wandered back to the sound of Lily's tiny breathing and the way Natalie's smile had lingered after she closed the door. She lasted exactly 90 minutes before returning. Natalie opened the door with raised brows. Finished early? Something like that, Elena said, refusing to admit how quickly she had rushed back. As the day faded into evening, Natalie grew quieter. Not distant, just thoughtful, distracted, something heavy pulling at her features. Elena noticed instantly.
She always noticed now.
What's wrong? Elena asked softly as they stood in the kitchen together. Natalie hesitated, hands tightening around the dish towel she was holding. Nothing. Natalie. That single word, firm, patient, gentle, broke something in her. Natalie sank into a chair, exhaling slowly, the exhaustion in her bones showing for the first time in days. I got an email, she said. About a job. Elena's chest tightened. That's good. It is.
Just a small design job.
A few posters for a local event.
She paused.
They want to meet in person. So go, Elena said. I'll stay with Lily. Natalie bit her lip, the gesture small, nervous. It's not that. Then what is it? Natalie hesitated again, then reached into her phone and slid it across the table to Elena. A single unread message glowed on the screen, an unfamiliar number, nothing but a preview line that made Elena's blood run cold. You think I don't know where you are? Elena's expression went ice-sharp. Who is this? Natalie looked down, shoulders curling like she wanted to fold in on herself. It's him, she whispered. The words sank heavy between them. Elena didn't move, didn't breathe,
didn't blink.
Your ex? Natalie nodded. He's been trying to find me since before Lily was born. Sending messages from different numbers. Showing up at places I used to live. Asking people about me. Elena's jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Did you answer him?
No.
Never.
Good.
Natalie continued, voice trembling. He doesn't know about Lily. And if he finds out, if he tries anything, he could take her. He has money connections, more than I ever had. Her breath broke, and Elena was beside her instantly, her hand gripping Natalie's arm. Not possessive, but grounding. He's not taking her, Elena said, calm and deadly. He's not getting anywhere near her. Natalie looked up at her, eyes shining, not with tears, but with the terror of someone who had lived too many nightmares to trust the possibility of safety. You can't know that. I can, Elena said. And I do. Natalie exhaled shakily, trying to regain herself, but the vulnerability was raw, exposed. I don't want you to get involved in something dangerous. You've already done too much. You and Lily are not too much, Elena said, her voice deepening with something fierce. You're not a burden. You're not a mistake. And you're not alone. Natalie's breath stuttered. She looked at Elena differently then. Not with caution, but with something that almost felt like trust. Real trust. Trust that had taken root slowly, day by day, moment by moment. Elena, she whispered, her voice breaking. Elena stepped closer. Natalie didn't move away. Their faces were inches apart again. Too close, too warm, too full of everything they'd been holding back. Elena lifted a hand, brushing a strand of hair behind Natalie's ear. Her fingers lingered there longer than they should have, tracing the soft line of her cheek. Natalie's lips parted. Her breath caught. She leaned in, not enough to bridge the gap, but enough to say she wanted Elena to. I don't want to be afraid anymore, Natalie whispered. You don't have to be, Elena breathed. Their foreheads met. Not by accident.
Not by chance. Slowly. Deliberately.
Natalie let out the smallest sound, a soft, trembling exhale that made Elena's heartbeat throb painfully. Elena slid her hand to the back of Natalie's neck, thumb brushing warm skin. Natalie closed her eyes, leaning into the touch like she needed it, like she belonged there. Elena, yes? Stay. The word was barely spoken, fragile and hopeful and terrified all at once. Elena didn't hesitate. I'm not going anywhere. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But they stayed like that, foreheads pressed together, breaths mingling, for a long, quiet moment that felt more intimate than any kiss could have been. It was a promise, a beginning, a declaration neither of them needed to say aloud. When the moment finally broke, Elena wrapped an arm around Natalie's shoulders, pulling her close as the woman trembled from the stress of the message. Natalie sank into her without resistance, head resting against Elena's chest. Elena held her gently but firmly, one hand on her back, protective and warm. Lily stirred in the bassinet nearby, but didn't cry. It felt like she could sense the shift too. The apartment felt different now, charged, full, safe. And Elena knew, with absolute certainty, that whatever storm was coming, she would burn the entire city to the ground before she let anything happen to the two people sleeping under this roof. Elena didn't leave that night. She couldn't. Something inside her refused to even consider it after seeing the fear in Natalie's eyes, after reading that message, after holding her in her arms for long, trembling minutes that carved themselves into Elena's bones. Natalie eventually calmed, though her breathing stayed uneven as she rested against Elena's chest, fingers curled lightly in the fabric of Elena's shirt as if anchoring herself. "You're shaking," Elena whispered. "I know," Natalie murmured, her voice small but honest. "I thought I was safe. I thought I was gone from him forever." "You are safe," Elena said firmly. "As long as I'm here, you're safe." Natalie lifted her head slowly, eyes glossy with emotion. "You keep saying that," she whispered, "and I keep believing you more than I should." Elena's jaw tightened, not with anger, but with something sharp and protective. "Believe me as much as you want," she said. "As much as you need. I'm not leaving." Natalie inhaled shakily, her gaze dropping to Elena's lips for a fleeting, devastating second before darting away. "You can't promise that," she whispered, even though everything in her voice begged Elena to contradict her. Elena cupped Natalie's cheek with one hand, slowly, gently, brushing her thumb along her skin like she was memorizing the shape of her. "I just did." Natalie's breath hitched so softly, it almost wasn't a sound. What happened next didn't feel planned. It didn't feel forced. It didn't even feel like a choice. It felt like gravity. Like inevitability. Like two people who had been orbiting the same impossible truth finally colliding. Natalie leaned in first, not enough to close the distance, just enough to tell Elena she wanted her to. Elena's pulse roared in her ears. She tilted her forehead toward Natalie's, their skin brushing, breaths merging, the silence charged and trembling with heat. "Elena," Natalie whispered, the sound barely a breath. It wasn't a question. It wasn't hesitation. It was an invitation. And Elena answered without speaking. She closed the space between them and kissed her. There was no interruption. No phone. No cry from the bedroom. No fear slicing the moment in half. Just the two of them finally giving in. Natalie gasped softly against her mouth, the sound dissolving into a desperate, aching sigh as her hands slid into Elena's hair, pulling her closer like she'd been waiting for this for far too long. Elena kissed her back with all the restraint she'd been forcing on herself for days, restraint that shattered the moment Natalie's lips parted for her, warm and trembling and impossibly soft. The kiss deepened slowly at first, then all at once, a rush of emotion neither of them could contain. It was tender and fierce, careful and hungry, reverent and breathless. Elena's hand slid from Natalie's cheek to the back of her neck, holding her gently but firmly, guiding her, grounding her. Natalie melted into her like she belonged there, fingers curling at the nape of Elena's neck, pulling her impossibly closer. The world faded. The room disappeared. Nothing existed except the taste of each other, the shared breaths, the way their bodies fit in the quiet, natural space between longing and finding. When they finally pulled apart, Only because breathing was suddenly necessary, they didn't move far. Their noses brushed. Their lips hovered. Their foreheads pressed together again, this time softer, breathier, trembling with the weight of what they had just crossed into. Natalie's voice was barely audible. "I knew it would feel like this," she confessed, breath warm against Elena's skin. Elena's eyes fluttered closed. "Like what?" "Like falling," Natalie whispered. "Like something I can't undo." Elena swallowed hard, her chest tightening. "I don't want to undo it." Natalie exhaled shakily, her thumb brushing Elena's jaw again, lingering like she couldn't stop touching her. "I don't either." They stayed like that for a long moment, simply breathing each other in, letting the electricity settle into something warm and steady between them. Then Lily shifted in her bassinet, not crying, just making a small, sleepy sound that seemed to anchor the room back into reality. Natalie pulled back slightly but didn't let go of Elena's hand, fingers woven tightly. "I should check on her," she murmured. "I know," Elena said softly. But neither moved. They just stared, eyes half-lidded, lips still tingling, hearts beating too fast and too close. Natalie was the one who finally broke the stillness. She squeezed Elena's hand and whispered, "Come with me." She led Elena to the bedroom where Lily slept, the lamp casting a warm glow over the room. Natalie checked the baby, tucked the blanket, kissed her forehead gently, and Elena watched her with something that could only be described as awe. When Natalie straightened, she turned to face Elena again. Something in her expression had changed, softer, fuller, stripped of all defenses. "Elena?" Her voice trembled. "Yes? Can you?" She paused, swallowing hard as vulnerability bloomed across her face. "Can you sleep here tonight? With me?" Elena froze, not with shock, but with the sudden, overwhelming wave of emotion the request unleashed inside her. "Are you sure?" she asked, voice low. "I don't want to make you uncomfortable, or push you into anything you're not. I want you here," Natalie said quickly, stepping closer. "Not because I'm scared, not because of him, but because I feel safe with you." Elena's heart cracked open.
Slow.
"Irreparable." "I'll stay," she said, barely managing to keep her voice steady. Natalie reached for her hand again, this time without hesitation. She led Elena to the bed, the sheets soft, warm, inviting in a way that had nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with the woman pulling her gently closer. They lay side by side, not touching at first, just breathing in the same quiet, intimate space. Then Natalie shifted, tentative but brave, resting her head against Elena's shoulder. Elena wrapped an arm around her instinctively, pulling her close, feeling the shape of Natalie's body fit against hers with ease that should have scared her, but only felt right. Natalie sighed, a sound of relief and something deeper. Elena kissed the top of her head. It was instinctive, natural, inevitable, and Natalie's fingers curled into Elena's shirt as she whispered, "I think I'm falling for you." Elena closed her eyes, hand tightening around her waist. "You're not the only one." There were no interruptions. No fear. No hesitation. Just two women lying together in the quiet glow of a bedroom, breathing the same air, wrapped in a peace they had never known before. For the first time in years, both of them slept soundly, with Lily dreaming safely beside them and a future beginning to take shape in the dark. Elena woke before the sun. It wasn't unusual for her. Her body was conditioned to rise with precision no matter what, but this time felt different.
Softer.
Warmer. Human. She blinked slowly, her eyes adjusting to the dim bedroom light, and became aware of the weight resting gently against her shoulder. Natalie. Her hair spilled over Elena's arm, her breath brushing warm and steady against Elena's skin. One hand was curled loosely over Elena's shirt like she had fallen asleep holding onto her without even realizing it. And Lily lay only a few feet away in her bassinet, small and peaceful, the soft rise and fall of her chest the only sound in the quiet room. Elena didn't move. Not because she was afraid of waking them, but because something sacred had settled over that space. Something she didn't want to break. She had slept, really slept, for the first time in weeks, maybe even years. No restless thoughts. No corporate battles replaying in her head. Just the feeling of Natalie's heartbeat against her side and the soft comfort of belonging somewhere that wasn't built from ambition.
It was terrifying.
It was beautiful. It was necessary. Natalie stirred first. She shifted slightly, then froze, as if remembering who she was lying against. Slowly, she lifted her head, eyes still heavy with sleep, hair adorably chaotic. "Good morning," she whispered, voice rough and soft and unguarded. Elena's heart pulled tight in her chest. "Good morning," she whispered back. Natalie blinked away the last traces of sleep and focused on Elena, really seeing her, hair slightly messy, shirt wrinkled, eyes gentler than she'd ever seen them. "You stayed," Natalie murmured, like she still needed confirmation. Elena brushed a strand of hair back from Natalie's cheek with the softest touch. "I told you I would." Natalie's lips curved into a small, shy smile, and something inside Elena melted at the sight of it. "I don't usually sleep well," Natalie admitted, voice barely above a murmur. "But last night, I didn't wake up once." Elena swallowed, overwhelmed by the enormity of something so simple. "Me neither." Natalie's cheeks warmed at that, but she didn't look away. Instead, she lifted her hand and traced lightly along Elena's jaw, the same place she had touched before their kiss. Elena leaned into the touch instinctively. She wasn't supposed to need this. She wasn't supposed to crave it.
But now?
She couldn't imagine not having it. "Did you mean what you said last night?" Natalie asked softly. "About falling?" Elena didn't hesitate. Every word. Natalie's breath trembled as she exhaled, her eyes softening with a mixture of relief and fear and tenderness. She leaned forward and kissed Elena again, slow, warm, a morning kiss filled with intimacy rather than urgency. Elena's hand slid to the back of her neck, pulling her closer with a gentleness that made Natalie's heart stutter. When they parted, both of them were breathless despite the kiss being soft and delicate compared to the night before. They didn't get long to savor it. Lily woke with a little cry, not distressed, just hungry, and Natalie sat up instantly. Elena did too, but Natalie touched her arm. "Rest," she whispered. "I've got her." Elena shook her head lightly. "We've got her." Natalie froze for a second. A single second that was long enough for Elena to realize what she'd said. But she didn't take it back. Natalie's eyes softened in that fragile, heartbreaking way she had every time she struggled between fear and hope. "Okay," she whispered. They fed Lily together. Natalie holding the bottle, Elena cradling the baby with practiced tenderness. Watching them like this, so natural, so quiet, so perfectly aligned, felt surreal. Elena didn't feel like a CEO in that moment. She didn't feel like the woman whose name alone made boardrooms hold their breath. She just felt whole. When Lily finished eating, Elena burped her gently, smiling when the baby made a small, content sound. "She adores you," Natalie said softly. "I adore her too," Elena replied. And the honesty of it made Natalie's voice catch. The morning unfolded with a domestic ease that neither of them had ever known in their adult lives. Coffee. Warm blankets. Lily giggling in Elena's lap. Natalie working on her laptop while leaning lightly against Elena's shoulder. There were touches, small ones, lingering ones, fingers brushing, hands resting on thighs, elbows nudging gently. Nothing rushed. Nothing forced. Just love blooming slowly and fully in the quiet moments between breaths. It was almost perfect, until Natalie's phone buzzed. A single vibration that broke the moment like a thin sheet of ice shattering underfoot. She froze. Elena watched the color drain from her face before she even reached for the device. "Natalie," Elena said quietly. "Don't. It might be work," Natalie whispered, but they both knew it wasn't. Elena reached out and placed her hand over Natalie's before she could pick up the phone. She didn't squeeze. She didn't restrain. She simply anchored her. "I'll look," Elena said. It wasn't a question. Natalie exhaled shakily and let go of the phone. Elena lifted it. The number was different again, but the preview message was unmistakably the same person. "Nice apartment." Shame you won't be there much longer. Elena's blood went cold. The kind of cold that came with lethal, controlled fury. She had faced competitors, rivals, board members who tried to undermine her. But none of them had ever made her feel this kind of quiet, terrifying rage. She turned the screen so Natalie could see it without touching it. Natalie's face collapsed. She pressed a hand to her mouth, shoulders trembling. How? How does he know where He doesn't, Elena said sharply. He's fishing. This is a threat, not knowledge. But what if, Natalie? Elena stepped closer, her voice dropping into something steady, certain, immovable. He doesn't know where you are. You can't be sure. I can, Elena said, because this building is under my security system. Every camera, every entrance, every piece of data is monitored. If anyone suspicious came near this floor, I would know. I would be the first to know. Natalie trembled. I don't want Lily anywhere near him. Elena cupped her face with both hands, gently but firmly. She won't be. Natalie's eyes glistened. I don't want you involved. I'm already involved, Elena whispered. And I'm not stepping back. Natalie shook her head, overwhelmed, tears beginning to spill. I just found something good. I can't lose it. I can't lose you. Elena felt her heart break open in ways she didn't know were possible. She leaned forward and kissed her, softly at first, then deeper, fiercer, pulling her closer as if sealing a vow on Natalie's lips. When they parted, Elena rested their foreheads together. You're not losing me, she whispered.
Not now.
Not ever. Natalie closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. Elena kissed them away, one slow kiss at a time. Lily made a soft cooing noise, almost as if sensing the emotional weight in the room. Natalie wiped her eyes. What do we do? Elena's expression sharpened, not with fear, but with resolve. We protect you, she said. We protect Lily. And we don't let him get close enough to breathe the same air. Natalie swallowed hard.
How?
Elena stepped back, lifting her phone. First, I call security. Second, I contact someone who specializes in situations like this. Like what? Like keeping women safe from men who can't accept that they lost control, Elena said, her voice like steel wrapped in fire. Natalie's breath hitched. Elena softened her tone again. You and Lily are my priority. Everything else can burn. Natalie stared at her, long, raw, awed. Then she whispered, I love you. The words left her like a confession she'd been holding inside too long. Elena froze. Her breath stopped. Her heartbeat stuttered dangerously. Natalie's eyes widened as if realizing what she'd said, panic rising. Elena, I didn't mean to say that, Elena kissed her.
Hard. Fierce.
Full of meaning. When she pulled back, her voice shook for the first time in years. Say it again. Natalie exhaled a trembling breath. I love you. Elena closed her eyes as the words settled into her chest like truth she'd been waiting her whole life to hear. I love you too. Lily babbled loudly, interrupting the moment with perfect timing, and both women laughed through the leftover tears. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe yet, but it was real. And Elena Vaughn would do anything to protect it. Elena didn't waste a second after hearing the words, I love you, fall from Natalie's lips. She didn't let fear or hesitation or any part of her old self interfere. She kissed Natalie like it was the only language she understood, like that single moment could rewrite every scar on Natalie's heart. But as soon as the adrenaline faded, as soon as she pulled away and rested her forehead against Natalie's, the reality sank its claws into her. Loving Natalie meant protecting Natalie. Loving Natalie meant protecting Lily. Loving them meant facing a threat that had already bled into their lives. So Elena stepped away, not from them, never from them, but from the warmth of the bedroom, reaching for her phone while her other hand stayed linked with Natalie's like she couldn't bear to lose physical contact. I need to make some calls, she murmured. Natalie tightened her grip on her fingers. Be careful. Elena kissed her forehead, soft, lingering, protective. Always. She walked into the hallway, shoulders straightening, expression sharpening into the version of herself the world feared. The CEO. The strategist. The woman who never lost. The woman who destroyed anything that tried to take from her. Her first call was to Victor, the head of her personal security team. She didn't bother with greetings. I need a threat assessment on a man.
Now.
Name. Daniel Reed.
A beat.
Is this related to the woman you've been visiting? Elena's jaw clenched.
Dear job.
I'll get everything within the hour. I want background, financials, criminal ties, movements in the last 2 months, every address he's visited, every call he's made. Understood. And Victor? Yes, Ms. Vaughn. If he comes within a mile of this building, I want to know before he takes a step. Consider it done. She hung up. The next call was harder, not logistically but emotionally, because this one was necessary in a way she wished it wasn't. She dialed Joanne, her lawyer. Elena? It's late. Is everything all right? I need to secure emergency protections for a woman and a child. Fast. Legal protections? All of them. Who is the threat? Her ex.
He's wealthy.
Connected. She's afraid he'll try to take the child. Joanne inhaled sharply. Elena, this could get complicated. Custody, paternity, protective orders. I don't care how complicated it is. Fix it. I'll do everything in my power. Send me her information. Done. The last call she didn't want to make, but she had no choice. She dialed a private investigator who owed her more favors than she could count. I need someone found, Elena said, and watched. Who? A man who thinks he can terrify the woman I love. Silence. Then a low whistle. Didn't think I'd ever hear you say that. Find him, Elena said, her voice like steel, before he finds her. She hung up before he could respond. When she returned to the living room, Natalie was sitting on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, eyes distant, like she was fighting off 100 memories at once. Lily slept beside her, oblivious. Elena softened. All the ice in her spine melted the moment she saw them. She sat beside Natalie, gently pulling her into her side. Natalie leaned in quiet, tired, the tremor in her body only noticeable because Elena felt it through their joined arms. What did you do? Natalie whispered. Everything I needed to. Elena, her voice cracked. I don't want you in danger because of me. I'm not in danger, Elena said softly. He is. Natalie's breath stuttered, but she couldn't help the small, shaky smile that pulled at her lips. You mean that, don't you? Elena brushed her thumb across Natalie's cheek. Every word. Natalie's eyes glistened. I'm scared. I know, but I'm more scared of losing what we just found. Elena rested her forehead against Natalie's, their breaths mingling. You're not losing me, she murmured. Not now. Not ever. Natalie closed her eyes and exhaled slowly. Let me show you something, she whispered. She stood and walked to a drawer near the bookshelf. Elena watched as Natalie pulled out a small notebook, old, worn, stained from weather and time. What's that? Something I wrote before Lily was born, Natalie said, sitting beside her again. She hesitated, fingers trembling over the cover. I wrote letters to her, in case something happened to me. Elena's breath caught. Natalie, I didn't know if I would make it. I didn't know if I'd survive him, or the pregnancy, or the streets. Her voice wavered. I wanted her to know who I was, that I loved her, that she wasn't a mistake. Elena swallowed hard, emotion tightening her chest. Can I read it? Natalie hesitated, then nodded. Yes. I want you to. Elena took the notebook gently, as if it were fragile. She opened it to the first page. The handwriting was uneven, some letters smudged by tears or rain. To my little miracle, it began. If you're reading this, it means I did something right. Elena stopped. Her vision blurred for a moment before she blinked it away. Natalie watched her carefully. There's more, she whispered. Elena continued reading. Words about fear, about hope, about fighting for Lily even when the world tried to swallow them whole, about wanting someone, anyone, kind to find them. You were alone, Elena whispered. You were trying to prepare for the worst. Natalie nodded, tears slipping silently down her face. I didn't think I'd ever have someone safe to show this to. Elena set the notebook down with a trembling breath. Thank you, she said softly, for trusting me with this. Natalie leaned in, pressing her forehead to Elena's shoulder. I trust you more than I thought I could trust anyone again. Elena wrapped her arms around her, holding her tightly, protectively. It was a long time before either of them moved. And when they finally did, it was only because Elena's phone buzzed on the table. A single message from Victor. We have a location. And you're not going to like where he was seen. Elena's body tensed. Natalie sat up slowly, anxiety sharpening her features. What is it? Elena stood, reading the message twice. He was spotted 3 blocks from the cafe you go to every morning. This morning. Elena felt a cold, lethal calm settle over her. He's here, she whispered. Natalie went pale. What? Elena looked at her with steady, unbreakable determination. He's in the city. Natalie's breath shook. Elena, you're safe, Elena said instantly. He doesn't know this location. He's guessing.
Testing.
Fishing. But if he's this close, then I get closer. Natalie's heart pounded visibly beneath her sweater. What does that mean? Elena lifted her gaze, fire burning quietly beneath her calm exterior. It means, she said slowly, that if he's looking for you, she slipped on her coat. Straightened it. He's going to find me first. Elena left the apartment with a calmness that did not belong to the situation but belonged entirely to the kind of woman she was when someone threatened what she loved. Her footsteps were precise, sharp, echoing through the hallway as she made her way to the elevator. She didn't look back, even though every instinct screamed to return to Natalie, to Lily, to the safety of their small, fragile world. But safety didn't come from hiding. It came from eliminating what hunted them. Inside the penthouse, Natalie stood frozen after the door closed, her fingers trembling around Lily's blanket as she rocked the baby unconsciously, tears threatening but refusing to fall. Elena, she whispered to the empty room, terrified and proud at the same time. Elena stepped out onto the cold street, fingers closing around her coat collar as she walked straight toward the cafe, toward the last place the message suggested he had been. She didn't need directions. She didn't need backup yet. She needed to see with her own eyes. She needed to look danger in the face and let it understand something very simple. Natalie Brooks was no longer unprotected. Halfway down the block, her phone vibrated.
Victor.
She answered without slowing her pace.
Ms. Vaughn, he said.
We've confirmed Daniel Reed's presence. He was seen near the Kulfi at 6:45 a.m., watching the building across from it. He left 2 hours ago, heading west. Is he armed? Unknown. But his record shows 3 arrests for assault, none resulting in convictions. Because he paid people off, Elena said darkly. Most likely. Find him, she ordered. Keep eyes on him. Don't approach yet. I'll make contact first. Understood. She hung up, jaw tight, eyes sharp. She reached the cafe in minutes. It looked harmless. Familiar, ordinary, as if it hadn't just become a stage for the beginning of a war. She stepped inside, her gaze sweeping every corner. The barista looked up, startled. Ms. Vaughn, twice in one day. Did someone come in looking for me earlier? The barista blinked.
No.
I mean, not that I remember. It was slow this morning. Rain kept most people away. Anyone unusual? Anyone waiting outside? The barista hesitated. There was a guy standing across the street for a while. Hood up.
Didn't order anything.
Just watching. Elena's heart slowed to a dangerous rhythm. What did he look like?
Tall.
Maybe 6 feet? Light brown hair. Wearing a black jacket. Kind of angry looking. I didn't think much of it. That was enough. Elena's voice dropped. Thank you. She stepped outside. The rain was lighter now, but the city still glistened with the remnants of the morning storm. Elena walked to the opposite sidewalk, standing exactly where he would have stood. From here, he could see the cafe. He could see people entering and leaving. He could have seen Elena. He could have followed her. The thought made her vision darken.
Her phone buzzed again. Victor. We found him, he said.
He's at a hotel on West 43rd, checking out. He has a bag, travel size. Looks like he bought a new prepaid phone this morning. Don't let him leave, Elena said. But don't touch him. Not yet. I'm on my way. We'll keep eyes on him. Elena hailed a car. She didn't trust herself to drive. Rage could make her reckless, and reckless could make her dangerous in ways that left no room for subtlety. She needed clarity. She needed control. She needed precision. The driver took her through Midtown quickly, and Elena watched the city blur past with a clenched jaw and a heartbeat that pulsed like a countdown. When she arrived at the hotel, Victor was already waiting with two of her most discreet security operatives. He's in the lobby, Victor said quietly, sitting near the far wall, bag at his feet. He hasn't made a move since we spotted him. Elena nodded once. Stay back. I go alone. Miss Vaughn, he won't touch me, she said. But if he does, then you intervene. She walked into the lobby like a storm given human form. People glanced at her, then quickly looked away when they saw her expression. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, each step radiating a force that made the air feel thinner. She saw him immediately. Daniel Reed. He looked nothing like a man who deserved the devotion of a woman like Natalie. His posture was impatient, aggressive. His eyes shifted around the room, searching, calculating. And Elena felt something primal rise inside her. She walked straight toward him. When she stopped in front of him, he looked up, confused, then annoyed, then faintly intrigued. You're in my way, he said. Elena smiled, a cold, deadly curve of lips. Good. He frowned. Do I know you? Not yet. Then move. Elena leaned slightly closer. Do you know a woman named Natalie Brooks? The moment the name left her lips, his expression changed. Recognition. Anger. Possessiveness. Who the hell are you? He demanded. The woman who's going to tell you exactly what's going to happen next, Elena said. And believe me. She lowered her voice, her words slicing through the air like ice. You should listen. Daniel stood, puffing himself up like a man who thought intimidation was a currency that could buy him power. Where's she? He hissed. Elena didn't blink. Far from you. She has something that belongs to me. Elena's eyes flashed. She owes you nothing. The kid is mine. Elena stepped closer until only inches separated them. You don't get to call Lily anything. Who the hell are you to say that? Elena smiled again, this time sharper. I'm the woman protecting them. Daniel's jaw flexed. Protecting her from what? From me. From the man who made her write letters to her unborn child because she thought she wouldn't survive you, Elena said softly. Daniel's face tightened. Something ugly flickered in his eyes. She ran from me, he spit. She took my kid. Lily is not yours, Elena said, her voice calm but lethal. She's hers, and you will not go near them. He laughed, a bitter, mocking sound. Who are you to tell me that? Elena reached into her coat and pulled out a single card. Black. Unmarked except for her name in silver. Elena Vaughn, Vaughn Enterprises. Daniel blinked. You're the… Yes. His mouth opened slightly, shock rippling across his face. He wasn't expecting someone powerful. He wasn't expecting someone untouchable. He wasn't expecting someone willing to burn the world down for someone else. Elena continued, her voice steady and soft. If you try to find her again, every door in this city will close to you. Every job you apply for will mysteriously disappear. Every opportunity will turn to dust. You will become invisible to the world, not because you ran, but because I decided you no longer exist. Daniel swallowed. Are you threatening me? Not at all, Elena said. I'm promising you facts. You can't control my life. Watch me. Her calmness frightened him more than yelling ever could have. He took a step back. Elena followed.
Leave the city, she said. Now. Today.
And never come back. You can't keep me from her. I already have, Elena said. She doesn't want you. She doesn't fear you anymore. And she doesn't belong to you. Daniel clenched his fists. And who does she belong to? You? Elena didn't look away.
Didn't blink. Didn't hesitate.
No, she said quietly. She belongs only to herself. A beat. But she's loved. And she's safe. And you will never touch her again. Daniel stared at her, something ugly and frightened twisting behind his eyes. You're crazy, he whispered. No, Elena replied. I'm in love. And then she turned her back on him, because turning away was the greatest display of dominance she could offer. A gesture that said he wasn't a threat. He wasn't a danger. He was nothing. Victor and the guards moved in subtly as she walked away, ensuring Daniel didn't follow. Elena stepped outside, exhaling slowly, her composure cracking only when she was alone on the sidewalk. Her hands shook, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of protecting the two people who mattered most. Her phone buzzed. A message from Natalie. Are you okay? Please come home. Elena typed back instantly. On my way. And she walked faster than she ever had in her life. Elena didn't remember the elevator ride up. She didn't remember the walk through the hallway. She barely remembered opening the door. What she remembered, what she felt in the very center of her chest, was the second she stepped back inside the apartment and saw Natalie. Natalie was standing in the living room, Lily cradled against her chest, rocking the baby with trembling arms. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying.
Not yet.
She stood completely still when she saw Elena, as if her body didn't know what to do, with a flood of relief. Elena, she whispered. Elena shut the door quietly behind her, leaning against it for a moment because the sight of them, her girls, her heart, her purpose, hit her harder than any corporate battle ever had. I'm okay, Elena said softly. I'm here. Natalie let out a breath that shattered something inside her, a broken, shaky exhale she had clearly been holding since the moment Elena walked out. She moved forward without thinking, without hesitation, without fear. She handed Lily gently into Elena's arms, as if giving her what mattered most, then threw her arms around Elena's waist and buried her face in her shoulder. Elena held Lily securely with one arm and wrapped the other around Natalie, pulling her close in a fierce, grounding embrace. Natalie was shaking. Not violently. Not out of panic. Out of the overwhelming weight of everything she'd felt in the hours Elena was gone. I thought something would happen to you, Natalie whispered against her neck, her voice cracking. I kept imagining. Nothing happened, Elena murmured. I'm fine. But he was close, Natalie said. He was here. In the same city. In the same streets you walk. And he won't be anymore. Natalie pulled back just enough to look at her face, searching her expression for truth. What did you do? Elena hesitated, not because she was unsure, but because this mattered. Because Natalie needed honesty. I made it clear, Elena said quietly, that he will not go near you or Lily again. Natalie swallowed. Did you threaten him? Elena didn't blink. Yes. Elena, I promised what I could deliver, Elena said. I made it clear that if he keeps trying to find you, he will lose everything he cares about. And if he doesn't believe you, he does. Natalie closed her eyes for a moment, breath trembling. Then she stepped closer again, slipping her arms around Elena's waist, but this time the gesture was different, almost reverent, like she wasn't just holding Elena but anchoring herself to her. I didn't know anyone would ever fight for me, Natalie whispered. Not like that. Not with everything. Elena tightened her arm around her. I would fight for you with more than that. Natalie's eyes glistened. She reached up, brushing her fingers gently along Elena's jaw, tracing a line of warmth across her skin. Why? Elena didn't need to think. Because I love you. Natalie inhaled sharply, the words hitting her with the force of something she had longed for and feared at the same time. She lifted her hand and placed her palm over Elena's heart. You scared me today. I know. You made me realize something, Natalie whispered. If something happened to you, I wouldn't survive it. Elena leaned forward, her forehead resting against Natalie's. Lily cooed softly in Elena's other arm, unaware that she was in the center of a moment that would change everything. Nothing is going to happen to me, Elena murmured. You don't get to lose me. Not in this lifetime. Natalie's breath shook again, but she nodded. She rested her hand on Lily's back, her fingers brushing Elena's at the same time in a gesture so gentle, so intertwined, that Elena felt her chest tighten. "I want to see her," Natalie whispered, "in your arms when I wake up every day." Elena's heart almost stopped. "Natalie, I want you here," she continued, her voice breaking again. "Not visiting. Not checking. Not helping. I want you here. With us. I want you home." Elena felt something inside her unravel, all the walls she'd built for decades collapsing under the weight of that single, impossible sentence. "Home," her voice cracked. Natalie nodded, her hands sliding up to Elena's shoulders, holding her with trembling certainty. "This feels like home," she whispered. "You feel like home." Elena closed her eyes. She didn't cry, she didn't know how to cry, but she felt the burn behind her eyelids, the pressure of something she'd never allowed herself to feel. "Say it again," Elena whispered. "Please." Natalie didn't hesitate. "Be home with us." Elena kissed her. It was slow this time, deep and aching, filled with everything that had happened and everything they were terrified to hope for. Lily shifted gently between them, reminding them she was there, but she didn't cry. She simply curled into Elena's arm, soft and trusting. When they pulled apart, Natalie rested her forehead against Elena's again, breathing in sync. "Promise me you'll stay," Natalie whispered. "Tonight. Tomorrow. After." Elena nodded, the decision already made long before Natalie asked. "I'm not leaving," Elena murmured. "Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever." Natalie swallowed hard. Her voice broke. "I need you." Elena kissed her forehead. "You have me." The rest of the night unfolded in a quiet, fragile tenderness. They didn't talk about the danger. They didn't talk about Daniel. They didn't talk about fear or threats or plans. They talked about Lily's favorite lullaby, about how Natalie liked her tea, about the first moment Elena realized she was falling in love, about the first moment Natalie realized she felt safe. They lay together in bed again, closer than before, bodies curved into one another, Lily asleep in her bassinet beside them. Natalie tucked her head under Elena's chin, one hand resting over Elena's heart, as if she needed to feel the rhythm to believe she was still there. Elena held her tightly, one hand stroking her hair, the other resting near Lily's little blanket, close enough to reach her at any moment. "I didn't know I could have this," Natalie whispered in the dark.
Love.
Safety. A future. Elena kissed the top of her head. "You deserve all of it." "With you?" Natalie asked quietly. Elena closed her eyes, pressing her lips to Natalie's hair. "With me," she whispered. Natalie relaxed completely then, sinking into Elena like she had finally found the place she had been searching for her entire life. And Elena felt something she had never felt before.
Peace.
Real peace. The kind that settles in your bones and whispers that you are exactly where you're meant to be. For the first time, sleep took them both together, wrapped in the certainty of something unbreakable. Elena woke with a strange heaviness in her chest, the kind that whispered that the world outside the warm cocoon of their bed was shifting, preparing to bring a storm she had been expecting but hoping not to face so soon. She blinked her eyes open slowly. Natalie was still tucked against her, breathing softly, her hand resting over Elena's heart as if she'd fallen asleep needing the reassurance of every beat. Lily was in her bassinet beside them, making small, sleepy noises. For a moment, everything felt safe. Then Elena's phone vibrated on the nightstand. A soft buzz, harmless to anyone else, but Elena knew the difference between normal and urgent. She reached for it carefully, not waking Natalie. A message from Victor. "We need to talk."
Now.
Elena's stomach tightened, but she forced her breath steady. Carefully, she slipped out of Natalie's embrace. Natalie stirred, but Elena brushed a soft kiss to her forehead. "I'll be right back," she whispered. She stepped into the hallway and called Victor immediately. "What happened?" Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp, controlled. Victor didn't waste time. "Daniel Reed visited the Department of Child Services this morning." Elena's blood iced. For what purpose? He tried to file for custody reinstatement. Elena felt the world tilt for a moment. He's claiming Natalie is unfit, Victor continued. He said she's hiding the child in unsafe conditions and that he fears for the baby's well-being. Elena closed her eyes, fury pulsing through every vein. He has no evidence. He's trying to create it, Victor said. He mentioned he believes she is living in one of your buildings. Elena stiffened. He what? He's fishing. He doesn't know the unit. But he's insinuating she's under the protection of someone powerful and that it's creating a harmful environment for the child. Elena wanted to throw the phone. Instead, she inhaled once.
Slow. Deadly.
What do we do? Victor asked. Elena answered with absolute clarity. We get ahead of him.
How?
Elena opened her eyes, the steel in them enough to cut glass. He wants a war in court? She turned, gaze drifting back to the bedroom where Natalie and Lily slept unaware. Then I'll give him one. She ended the call and walked slowly back to the room. She wasn't sure what expression she wore, determination, fear, love, something more primal. But when she stepped inside, Natalie was awake. She sat upright in bed, hair messy, sleep still clinging to her, but her eyes were worried. You disappeared, Natalie whispered. Only for a minute, Elena said gently. Natalie studied her, then exhaled shakily. Your face, something's wrong. Elena hesitated. She didn't want to tell her yet. She wanted one more hour, one more moment of peace. But hiding things was not how love worked. So she sat beside Natalie and took her hands. I need you to listen carefully, Elena said. Natalie's fingers tightened. Okay. Elena brushed her thumb over the back of her hand. Daniel went to child services this morning. The air vanished from the room. Natalie's breath broke. WI? What does he want? Custody, Elena said softly. Natalie went white. No, he petitioned to reopen his case. He claims you're hiding Lily in unsafe conditions. We're not. Elena, I'm caring for her, you help me, we're. Her voice cracked violently. I'm a good mother. Elena cupped her cheek. You are the best mother I've ever seen. Natalie covered her mouth, shoulders trembling. He can't take her. He can't, Elena, please. He won't, Elena said, pulling her closer. I won't let him. You don't understand, Natalie whispered, panic rising. He knows the system.
He knows how to lie.
He knows how to charm, and I know how to destroy men like him, Elena said, her voice calm enough to be terrifying. I have lawyers already preparing counteraction, and I will expose him.
How?
Every record, every threat, every witness. I will drag his past into the light. Natalie's breath trembled against Elena's shoulder. Elena, what if they believe him? Elena kissed her temple, then her cheek, then the corner of her mouth, tiny, urgent reassurances. They won't, she whispered, because I'll be standing beside you. Natalie closed her eyes, the fear too big to contain. I can't lose her. You're not going to lose her. I can't lose you either. Elena pulled her even closer. You won't. They stayed like that until Lily woke with a tiny cry, breaking the suffocating tension. Natalie wiped her eyes and went to pick her up, but Elena gently touched her arm. Let me. Natalie nodded, watching as Elena lifted Lily with perfect tenderness, cradling her close and soothing her with soft murmurs. Natalie stared, not just at the love in the gesture, but at the protectiveness, the fierceness, the devotion. A woman who had been alone for years now held a baby as if she had been waiting her whole life for her. The realization hit Natalie harder than any fear. Elena, she whispered. Elena looked up. Yes. Do you want this? Elena blinked. Want what? A family, Natalie said softly. With me. With Lily. The world seemed to still. Elena did not answer immediately. She didn't speak until she knew her voice would hold. I already have it, she said. Natalie's breath caught. Lily cooed in Elena's arms as if confirming it. But the moment was shattered by a knock at the door. A firm, official knock. Not loud. Not aggressive. but unmistakably institutional. Elena handed Lily to Natalie, her body instantly shifting into protective mode. "Stay behind me." Natalie obeyed, clutching Lily. Elena walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Her stomach dropped. Two individuals stood outside, a woman holding a clipboard and a man wearing a child services badge. Natalie saw Elena's posture change and whispered, "No. No, no, no. It's okay," Elena said softly. "I'm here." "Elena, they can take her." "Not while I'm breathing," Elena said and opened the door. "Ms. Vaughn?" the woman asked politely. "We received a report regarding a child potentially living on this floor. We're conducting a wellness check." Elena smiled. Not warmly, not kindly. It was the smile she used when she was about to dismantle someone's entire argument. "Of course," she said. "Come in." Natalie stiffened, fear rolling off her in waves. Elena reached back and squeezed her hand once, silent reassurance. The officers entered. The woman began asking questions, neutral on the surface, but Elena could hear the system behind them. "Are you the child's mother? How long have you been living here? What are your sources of income? Who else has contact with the child?" Natalie answered honestly, voice shaking but clear. Elena stood beside her, one hand resting lightly on her back, a protective signal the officers could not challenge. Then came the moment Elena anticipated. "And the child's father?" the woman asked. Natalie froze. Elena stepped forward. "Irrelevant," Elena said calmly. "That man has no legal rights. We'll need to verify that." "You can verify with my attorney," Elena replied. "Her office will send every document you need within minutes." The man frowned. "And who are you to the mother?" Natalie stiffened again. Elena answered without hesitation. "I'm her partner." Natalie's breath caught sharply. The officers looked surprised for half a second, but continued with the assessment. The woman glanced at Lily, healthy, fed, clean, cooing in Natalie's arms. "The child appears well cared for," she said. "But given the report, which was filed by a known domestic abuser," Elena cut in, "and which was filed to harass a woman who escaped him." The officers exchanged a look. "We have to follow procedure," the woman said. Elena's voice softened, but somehow became even more powerful. "And I will follow every legal requirement you need," she said. "But understand something clearly. This child is safe. And I will ensure she stays that way." The officers nodded, gathering their things. "Our team will contact your lawyer for documentation," the woman said. "But based on what we've seen today, everything appears in order." Natalie sagged in relief. When the door closed, she turned to Elena, tears spilling. "Partner," she whispered. Elena cupped her face, pressing her forehead to Natalie's. "If you'll have me," she whispered. Natalie kissed her. "Not desperate. Not afraid.
Certain."
"I already do." But the peace didn't last long. Elena's phone buzzed again. A single message from her investigator. "Daniel is on the move. He's angry. He's not giving up." Elena held Natalie close, her mind already shifting into strategy. The storm wasn't over, but neither was their strength. Elena didn't tell Natalie everything she had read in the last message. She didn't describe the tone her investigator used, the urgency tucked between the words. The way "he's angry" meant something far more dangerous coming from a man like Daniel. She didn't want to scare her. Not when Natalie was holding Lily so tightly her knuckles were white. Not when her eyes still shimmered with the fear child services had left behind. But Elena knew the truth. Men like Daniel didn't simply go away when cornered. They clawed, they lied, they pushed harder. This was his last chance to reclaim control over a woman he believed belonged to him. And he was going to take it. Elena spent the rest of the morning pacing, making calls, sending messages, checking and rechecking the security feeds Victor provided. Cameras positioned at the building entrance, at the elevator, at the garage. Everything looked normal. Everything looked quiet. Too quiet. Meanwhile, Natalie moved slowly around the apartment, still shaken but trying to pretend she wasn't. She changed Lily's clothes. She cleaned up the kitchen. She folded blankets. But her hands trembled every time she looked at the door. Elena felt it like a punch each time. By noon, Natalie finally approached her. "You're hiding something," she said softly. Elena paused, jaw tense. "I'm managing something." "That isn't the same." Elena exhaled, a long, reluctant breath. She took Natalie's hand and led her to the couch. "He isn't giving up," Elena said quietly. "My investigator says he's trying to find anyone who knows you. He's asking people at shelters, old neighbors, anyone he can manipulate." Natalie's face went pale. "Elena, he won't get close to you," Elena promised. "I won't allow it. But if he's searching, then he'll find me before he finds you." Natalie looked at her as if she wanted to believe that with every fiber of her being, but fear still flickered in her eyes. Fear of losing Lily. Fear of losing Elena. Fear of being found again. Elena cupped her face. "Nothing is going to happen to you," she whispered. "You and Lily are safe with me." Natalie leaned into her touch, closing her eyes. "Just promise me you'll be careful." Elena hesitated. "I promise I'll come back to you." It wasn't everything,
But it was honest.
hours passed with a tense, heavy stillness. They stayed close to each other, Natalie instinctively gravitating toward Elena's presence, Elena keeping herself between Natalie and any exit, any window, any shadow. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. It was love. By mid-afternoon, Lily was asleep in Elena's arms, tiny fingers curled into Elena's shirt, breathing soft and warm. Natalie watched them from the doorway of the bedroom, her chest tightening with a mixture of awe and terror. "You look good like that," Natalie whispered. Elena looked up. "Like what?" "Like someone's mother." Something in Elena's expression broke, quietly, beautifully. Her features softened. Her eyes warmed. She pressed a kiss to Lily's head. "I would do anything for her," Elena murmured. "And for you." Natalie stepped closer, brushing Elena's hair back behind her ear. "I know." The moment held, soft, full, hopeful. And then the intercom buzzed. A shrill, sudden sound that cut through the room like a blade. Natalie flinched. Elena's entire body went rigid. She stood slowly, gently handing Lily to Natalie. "Stay here," she whispered. Natalie tightened her hold on Lily. "Elena, no. Stay. Here." The intercom buzzed again. Elena walked to the panel and pressed the button. "Yes." "Package from Ms. Vaughn," a male voice said.
"Come."
"Neutral. Ordinary." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Who is this?" "Delivery from Ms. Vaughn," the voice repeated. "Signature required." Elena glanced at the camera monitor next to the panel and froze. A delivery man stood at the building entrance, a cap pulled low, packages in hand, head down. Normal. Ordinary. But behind him, at the edge of the frame, a second figure. Hood up. Hands in pockets. Facing the door. Facing the camera. Facing her. Daniel. Elena's pulse didn't spike. It plummeted, sharp, focused, deadly. "Victor," she murmured under her breath as she dialed him silently on her phone. "Front entrance."
"Now."
"Already moving," Victor answered. Elena didn't open the door. "Leave the package," she said into the intercom. "I'll retrieve it later." The delivery man hesitated, then nodded. The camera showed him placing the boxes down. But Daniel didn't move. He stayed exactly where he was, still, coiled, watching the building like a wolf stalking something inside. Elena's jaw tightened. "Natalie," she said, turning to her. "Go to the bedroom. Lock the door. Don't open it unless it's me." Natalie's breath broke. "Elena, do it." Natalie nodded, hugging Lily tightly as she hurried to the bedroom, closing the door behind her. Elena turned back to the monitor. Daniel stepped closer to the entrance. Closer. Closer. He reached out, tested the handle, found it locked. Elena stared at him with an expression she hadn't worn in years. Not anger. Not fear. Just pure, sharp, calculated resolve. Victor's team appeared on the camera, moving with professional precision. Daniel saw them. His head snapped around. He froze. Then he ran. "Victor!" Elena snapped into the phone. "Do not lose him." "We're on him," Victor said. He won't get far. Elena wanted to go down. She wanted to chase him. She wanted to end this herself. But then she heard it, the soft, muffled sound behind the bedroom door. Lily whimpering. Natalie whispering soothing words. Her family. Elena's hand fell away from the doorknob. She couldn't leave them.
Not now.
Not while they were terrified. She walked to the bedroom.
Knocked softly.
It's me. The lock clicked. The door opened. Natalie stood there, holding Lily against her chest, tears streaking her face. Was it him? She whispered. Elena nodded. Natalie's knees buckled, but Elena caught her, pulling her close, keeping them both upright. He didn't get inside, Elena murmured. He didn't even get past the door. Natalie clung to her. I'm so scared. I know. What if he comes back? He won't, Elena said. Not after today. How do you know? Because Victor is following him. And because I'm done being reactive. Natalie looked up at her, eyes red. What does that mean? Elena brushed her thumb over Natalie's cheek. It means I'm ending this. Elena, safely. Elena added quickly. Legally. Permanently. But I am ending this. Natalie swallowed hard. And us. You're my priority, Elena whispered. You and Lily. Everything I do now is for you. Natalie pressed her forehead to Elena's chest, breathing her in. I can't lose you, she whispered. You aren't going to, Elena murmured, kissing the top of her head. I'm right here. Victor called an hour later. We have him, he said. He tried to leave the city. We intercepted. And, Elena asked. He made threats. Many. All recorded. We have enough for a restraining order and criminal charges. Elena exhaled slowly. Good. Hold him. For how long? Until my lawyer arrives. Elena hung up and turned to find Natalie watching her, Lily asleep in her arms. It's almost over, Elena said softly. Natalie's lip trembled. I want it to be over. I want us to be free. Elena walked to her, cupping her face with both hands. We will be, she whispered. Tomorrow. Natalie searched her eyes. Tomorrow? Tomorrow, Elena repeated. I'll fix everything. Natalie leaned into her touch, closing her eyes. I trust you, she whispered. Elena kissed her, slow, steady, full of love that went deeper than fear. I know, Elena murmured. And I won't let you down. They held each other long into the night, the storm outside silent but heavy, waiting for the morning that would change everything forever. Elena didn't sleep that night. Not really. She lay awake with Natalie curled against her, holding her like something precious and irreplaceable, every rise and fall of Natalie's breath grounding her in a way she had never known she needed. Lily slept quietly beside them, unaware that the world outside had nearly cracked open, unaware that her entire future was hanging in the balance of what Elena would do at sunrise. Elena watched them, really watched them, and the truth settled deep in her bones. She wasn't doing this because she felt responsible. She wasn't doing this because of guilt or duty or the illusion of rescue. She was doing it because she loved them, both of them, because they were hers. When dawn bled into the room, soft and gold, Elena slipped out of bed and dressed quietly, her movements silent and controlled. Natalie stirred but didn't fully wake, only reaching out for Elena unconsciously. Elena paused, her heart tightening, and brushed a kiss against Natalie's forehead. I'll be back, she whispered. I promise. She left before the fear could swallow her. Victor met her downstairs, face grim. He's still in holding, Victor said. Your attorney is already there. Elena nodded once. Let's finish this. They drove to the precinct in silence, though the quiet wasn't uncomfortable. Elena's mind was sharp, focused, deadly calm. She walked inside with steps that echoed across the corridor, a straight line of determination that made officers step aside without knowing why. Joanne, her lawyer, stood waiting. Morning, Joanne said, though her tone was cautious. We're ready whenever you are. I'm ready now, Elena said. Daniel sat in the interview room, handcuffed to the table, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep and too much rage. When he saw Elena enter, he smirked. Come to threaten me again? No, Elena said, pulling out the chair opposite him and sitting with unnerving calm. I came to finish this. Daniel laughed, leaning back with mock confidence. Finish what? I have rights. I'm the father. You're nothing, Elena said softly. His smirk faltered. Elena slid a folder across the table. Inside this file is everything Child Services needs. Police reports, witness statements, text messages, a recording of you threatening Natalie last night, evidence of previous violence, statements from 2 hospitals you visited after hurting her. Daniel stiffened. You have no right. I have every right, Elena said, because you filed a false claim against a mother, and because you dared to terrify a woman I love. He scoffed. Love? You barely know her. Elena leaned forward, her voice low enough to chill the air. I know everything I need to. I know she raised Lily with nothing but love. I know she survived you. I know she still has nightmares from things you did. I know she tried to protect her baby even before she was born. And I know that I will make damn sure she never has to fear you again. Daniel's jaw tightened. You think you can take everything from me? Elena's eyes sharpened. I already did. Joanne stepped forward. Daniel Reed, based on the evidence provided, the state will be filing an emergency protective order for Natalie Brooks and her child, as well as pursuing charges related to harassment, stalking, and endangerment. You will not be allowed near them. Daniel's face collapsed. His control finally cracked. This is ridiculous. She's mine. She was always mine. Something in Elena snapped at that. Not violently, not loudly, but absolutely.
No, she said.
She never was. And she never will be. And Lily is a child, not a possession. Daniel shook with anger, but it didn't matter. Elena had won. Legally. Emotionally. Entirely. Joanne nodded toward the door. We're done here. Elena stood. Daniel yelled as she walked out, but she didn't turn back. He no longer had power. He no longer counted. Victor followed her outside. It's over, he said. Elena nodded, though her chest still ached with something fragile and painful. Let's go home. When she returned to the apartment, she expected panic, worry, or tears. She didn't expect what she found. Natalie stood waiting in the living room, Lily in her arms, both still in pajamas. Natalie's hair was messy from sleep, her eyes soft but swollen from crying earlier. But when she saw Elena really saw her, she smiled. Not small, not hesitant.
Full. Warm.
Radiant. You're back, Natalie whispered. Elena felt something inside her chest crumble. I told you I would be. Natalie walked toward her, slowly, as if approaching something sacred. She placed Lily in Elena's arms, guiding the baby gently toward her. Lily smiled immediately, as if her whole tiny world had finally lined up the way it was supposed to. Natalie watched them with tears in her eyes. What happened? Elena exhaled, brushing Lily's forehead with her lips. It's over, she murmured. Legally. Permanently. He can't go near you. Or Lily. Or this building. Or anything connected to us. Natalie covered her mouth, a sob of relief breaking from her chest. Elena stepped closer, shifting Lily to one arm so she could touch Natalie's cheek. You're safe, Elena whispered. Both of you. Natalie surged forward and kissed her.
Hard. Full.
Trembling. Elena kissed her back instantly, dropping every barrier, every hesitation, every fear she had ever carried. They kissed like the world had finally given them permission to breathe. When they finally parted, Natalie touched Elena's forehead with hers. You saved us, she whispered. Elena shook her head. No, she said softly. You saved me. Natalie blinked.
How?
Elena swallowed, her voice unsteady. Because you made me feel again. You made me choose something other than work, other than loneliness. You made me want a life I didn't even know I wanted. Natalie wiped her tears. And, do you still want it? Elena looked at her, really looked, at her soft eyes, at the baby in her arms, at the tiny apartment that felt more like home than her penthouse ever had. And she knew the answer wasn't coming. It had always been there. Yes, Elena said. Forever. Natalie's breath caught. Then stay, she whispered. Not as a guest. Not as a visitor. Stay as ours. Elena felt her heart break open in the most beautiful way. I'm yours, she whispered back. I'm hers. I'm home. Natalie kissed her again. Slow this time, soft, full of promises they didn't need to speak. The sun filtered through the window, warm and golden, wrapping them in light. Lily cooed happily, reaching her tiny hands toward both of them. And Elena knew this was her life now. A life built not from power or control, but from love, safety, softness. A life where she could wake up to laughter, to tiny hands gripping her shirt, to Natalie smiling in the morning light. A life she never imagined. A life she would protect with everything she had. Natalie rested her head on Elena's shoulder. Lily nestled between them. What happens now? She whispered. Elena kissed the top of her head.
Now.
Elena said softly. Now we build our family. And they did. The classroom smelled like crayons, glitter glue, and the faint sugary scent of cupcakes cooling on a table in the corner, and 5-year-old Lily Von Brooks was practically vibrating with excitement as she sat in her tiny chair, legs swinging, ponytail bouncing every time she turned her head. Are they here yet? She whispered to her teacher for the 3rd time in 5 minutes. Ms. Harper smiled. Almost sweetheart. Mother's Day performances always run a little late. Lily nodded, but subtly checked the door again, clutching the paper flower she had made. Pink, slightly crooked, decorated with more glitter than should be legal. She couldn't wait. She had been talking about this day for weeks. About how she was the only kid in class with 2 moms. About how Ms. Elena was going to wear her boss jacket that means business but also means love, and how Mommy Natalie was going to cry the second Lily started singing, because she always cries when she's happy, but not in a sad way. When the door finally opened, Lily gasped so loudly half the class turned. Mommies, she squealed, launching herself from her chair and sprinting across the room with full 5-year-old determination. Elena barely had time to crouch before Lily slammed into her, arms wrapping tight around her neck. Elena let out a soft, winded laugh, lifting her up easily. There you are, sunflower, she murmured, kissing her cheek. You grew extra since yesterday. Are you sure you're not turning 6 today? Lily giggled.
No.
I'm only 5, Mommy Lena. Natalie joined them, brushing back Lily's hair and kissing the opposite cheek. Hi, baby. You look beautiful. Lily beamed, gripping both their faces dramatically. You two look beautiful too. She kissed them with the exaggerated, sticky affection only children could give, then gasped. Come sit.
Come sit.
It's starting. She grabbed their hands, one tiny palm in each, and tugged them toward the seats arranged in rows of tiny chairs that definitely weren't made for adult bodies. Elena sat down with careful CEO precision, clearly trying not to break the furniture. Natalie tried not to laugh. Lily ran back to her spot with the other kids, waving enthusiastically as if her moms were across a stadium instead of 2 meters away. She's excited, Natalie whispered. She's perfect, Elena whispered back, sliding her hand discreetly into Natalie's. The performance began, 25 5-year-olds singing loudly, off-key, and with more passion than rhythm. Most parents teared up. Natalie wiped her eyes at least 4 times. Elena pretended she wasn't watching Natalie more than the children. When Lily stepped forward for her solo line, she took a deep breath and sang, clear and sweet. I have 2 mommies who love me a lot. Some parents, Ed. Some clapped early. Natalie openly sobbed. Elena felt her chest swell, soften, crack, and rebuild all at once. After the performance, the kids ran to their parents to hand out their Mother's Day presents. Lily barreled toward them, holding 2 paper flowers, one pink, one blue. This one's for Mommy Lena, because you're strong and brave and protect us, she said proudly, handing over the blue one. And this one's for Mommy Nat because you make the best pancakes and you sing while brushing my hair. Natalie sniffed, taking the flower like it was a priceless artifact. Elena crouched, pulling Lily close again. What about you, Sunflower? Which one did you make for yourself? Lily giggled. I don't need one. I have you too. She wrapped her arms around their necks at once, pressing her forehead to Elena's, then Natalie's. You're my mom's. I'm the luckiest girl ever. Elena felt something warm flood her chest, soft and overwhelming. A feeling she still wasn't used to. A feeling she never wanted to lose. She looked at Natalie, whose eyes shimmered with the same emotion. Without thinking, Elena leaned over and kissed her, quick, soft, tender. Lily squealed happily and hugged them tighter. Family sandwich, she declared, squeezing them with all her tiny strength. Other parents looked over with smiles. A few with admiration. No one judged. And even if they had, it wouldn't have mattered. Elena had everything she'd ever wanted in her arms. And she would spend the rest of her life protecting it. Lily tugged their hands, pulling them toward the cupcakes. Come on. We have to celebrate. Elena let Lily drag her across the classroom. Yes, ma'am, she said, mock serious. Natalie laughed, looping her arm through Elena's as they walked. Lily spun ahead of them, ponytail bouncing, singing her Mother's Day song under her breath. Elena watched her. This little life she hadn't planned for, hadn't expected, but now couldn't exist without. She squeezed Natalie's hand. Happy Mother's Day, she murmured. Natalie rested her head briefly on Elena's shoulder. Happy Mother's Day, she whispered back. Their daughter turned and beamed at them, arms wide like she was welcoming them into the world she adored. And in that classroom filled with glitter,